Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of There Will Be Expletives, the vodcast. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And we got quite a bit of news to get through today, but I really wanted to take a second to say this real quick. If for whatever reason you've watched our content in the past and you've liked it, or if this is your first time checking us out and you like what you see, go onto our channel and check out the awesome Tomb Raider highlight show that Ron has assembled. He's put a lot of time and effort into it, and it shows, because I think it is one of the best things we have up on the channel. So please...
It's one of my favorite things we've done, I think.
Usually I have a hard time watching our stuff because I'm one of those that's like, I'm my own worst critic.
Yeah.
So everything I say or do bugs me, but I laugh the whole time watching it. It's a lot of fun. So yes, please go and check that out, please. And we're working on part 2. Ron's just about got that up and running. So be on the lookout for part 2 as well over the next few days. I just wanted to plug that real quick, shamelessly, as usual.
Hashtag shameless plug.
Yep. But let's jump into some fucking movie news, Ron. And the first one's going to be a little bit of a head-to-head because we did not agree on this at all. And
I can't believe that.
I have to admit, like, I'm in the minority because the most that I saw on YouTube, I mean, even for YouTube, good, positive, negative feedback for YouTube is like 50-50 because usually it's 95 bad, you know?
Right.
But most people seem to be digging the new Power Rangers trailer because we actually got to fucking see something for once. Like, the movie comes out in what, like 2 or 3 months?
Yes, March.
Yeah, and we're just now seeing real footage.
Yeah, I know.
I
really feel like since it was delayed, like they just didn't have it ready. KinoCheck International is the account where I saw it. Yeah, it was the first one that came up when I searched for it on YouTube. Dislikes are 573 at this moment, and likes are 14,249.
Yeah, it's really surprising because...
And the very, very first comment is from an account called Crash Gaming that says, if this turns into another Fantastic Four, I'll quit cinema.
Yeah. I mean, you loved it. It sounded
like... Well, I have my reservations, but compared to that first trailer...
I will give it that. Compared to the first trailer, it's much better.
Yes.
But to me, that's not saying anything at all, because I thought the first trailer was real lackluster. It didn't get me excited for it at all.
The first trailer felt like, we need to get something out there. What do we have ready? That's what the first trailer felt like to me.
Well, let's start off. What did you like about it?
It focused a lot less on the angst, for one. We actually got to see Rita in action. I thought it did a fairly good job of teasing the Zords. Like, you see enough to make you want more, but you don't get full-on shots of them.
Yeah, you get glimpses of them moving kind of in the background, like Cloverfield style, but you never really get like a fixed shot on them.
And one thing they never really did in the show much, they did in the first movie a little bit, but it looked like they were having like a full-on like Voltron battle before they even assembled the Megazord.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Now, overall, I think this trailer is much better than the first one. There are things I like about it that we're going to talk about.
What did you not like about it? I'm curious.
Okay, I wanted to say first the things I did like about it. I think the special effects team did a really, really good job. I like the way the suits look on them when they're in action. I think they look really cool.
As I say, we've only ever seen stills of the suits, and they actually looked really good in movement, I think.
I liked the weird Gideon style from Flash thing they have going on with Cranston Zordon. How it's kind of up on the wall.
That's one thing that I can't decide. I figured they wouldn't go the time warp crystal tube that he was in, but I didn't know what they would do. And I think just because of my attachment to the show as a child, like, it's not Zordon, but they did I think they did. I'll give them this. I'm on the fence if I like it or not. I haven't decided.
That's good.
I'll give them this. They did a really good job of coming up with a new Zordon concept while paying homage to the show's Zordon. Because he still looks like Zordon, but he's able to move around the room and stuff. Like,
to me, since I have no real attachment to it other than I was a fan of it as a kid, I actually thought it was a pretty cool adaptation of it. And obviously it's Cranston.
I don't know if we wanted to go into potential spoilers or not, but Phil pointed something out to me the other day that I had never noticed before, and I think he's right when I watched this trailer.
Okay, yeah, let's not talk about it just in case it ends up being a thing. I liked to me what it kind of looks like is the last 20 minutes or so is going to be that big Zord fight. I think that's going to end up being pretty cool because like I was saying, I like the special effects team on everything but Alpha 5 because the concept art that we all made fun of is not the concept art. It is the final product. And the one thing I was always excited about on this project was Bill Hader as Alpha 5. And what I'm going to be seeing the whole time when I watch this movie, whenever I do, is that that awesomely casted choice coming out of that for no reason.
All you're going to be able to think of is my Twitter account.
Yeah, thanks for that. This is partially
Alpha
your
4
fault.
3/4.
This is partially your fault.
I, as a Power Rangers fan, I do not like the design of Alpha 4 3/4.
My thing is why? Why?
As a person that can find the humor in just about anything, I fucking love Alpha 4 3/4 because it's just so.
It's so stupid that
I know.
It's so stupid. You know what I equate it to? It's not as bad, but it's the same kind of concept. I equate it to the ghetto bots in Transformers 2. It's like, why do these things exist? Why would you go out of your way to make something that way?
I don't know about that. I don't know that I agree with that.
It's just, it is completely unnecessary.
It's completely unnecessary.
It's, to me, all I'm saying, I'm not saying it's racist or anything like that. I'm just saying it's that level of you going out of your way to make something super dumb. And I don't understand why.
At the same time, the twins in Transformers, they're inherently racist just in their design. Like, they have, gold teeth and stuff. So
I'm saying they went that far out of their way to do this special effect for shit that shouldn't exist in the first place. Because there's no reason he couldn't just be a robot.
Anyone watching, whether you like the change or not, Google anything Alpha 5 concept art or anything like that, and there are so many fan art images that are 1,000 times better than Alpha 4 3/4.
I just saw it and I was like, oh god, why?
There's one that makes him look like the robot from The Day the Earth Stood Still. And then there's another one that I had sent you last time when we originally talked about the concept art that I really liked. I think it was a deviant art, but yeah.
It's just everything
I'll tell you what I don't like.
Well, let me just say this real quick. Everything else looks so cool, and for them to fuck up Alpha 5 that bad is just strange to me.
Is that the only reservation you had in this trailer?
No. You were saying about how you thought we got rid of a lot of the angst.
I didn't say we got rid of it. I said we didn't see a lot of it. What we did see was in the first trailer.
I think their dialogue is terrible, just throughout the whole trailer. Some of the lines they say, they are trying so hard, and they all fell flat for me.
A lot of the lines that the characters have do feel like they're from the mid to late 90s movie quality level.
And it wasn't one of those things where I think it was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can do that. Like, Joss Whedon does shit like that all the time, and you can kind of tell they're in on the joke.
Yeah.
It came across to me as just bad dialogue.
No, the dialogue leaves a lot to be desired. The fortunate thing about Power Rangers is it's not necessarily known for its dialogue. So
yeah. I mean, I've said it before. It's just one of those things to where I don't like hearing, and I know they're plugging the movie, but I don't like hearing we're doing this dark, awesome take on Power Rangers, and they're spouting off crappy dialogue like that. Like, that's a little, they're overselling it. It's like, just if they had been the whole time just like, we're doing fucking Power Rangers because fuck it, it's gonna be like a 90s show, that's cool. They've been selling it like it's a goddamn Dark Knight.
They've been selling it like it's for the people that grew up with Power Rangers, but the dialogue is still the original Power Rangers level dialogue. Like, it was a weird
juxtaposition.
Yeah. Did you have anything else on it that was just eating at you?
Alpha dialogue. I'm concerned that the dialogue is going to be so bad, and there's going to be so much CW/MTV level angst that by the end of the movie, I'm rooting for Goldar to win and eat them all.
It's fun to hear you use Goldar's name, considering I can't convince you he was in the original show to begin with.
No, I believed you. It was just that this shit's gone from my memory.
He was in like every episode almost.
Well, it's weird. I remember Ivan Ooze partially just because I watched.
He's in that movie.
See, yeah, I remember Ivan Ooze like perfectly, but I just don't fucking remember Goldar. He's like the silence in Doctor Who. It's just gone. It's just fucking gone. It's just one of those things. I think there was potential for this to be like a damn good movie, and I think at best what they made is a fun movie that you have to forgive a lot of to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah, the amount of fun that it is going to depend on A, your nostalgia for the original, and that can work against you, and B, the Pacific Rim level of mech combat is.
If I can
and the Into the Badlands level combat, like that's what it's going to depend on.
If I can just get 20 minutes, because I'm there for the mech stuff. I don't really get a whole lot out of them. What did you think about the new Putty Patrol dudes?
They looked more like clay golems from Diablo 2 to me.
Yeah. I don't know if you had heard this. I just read about it today. Apparently, the new concept for them is they can be constructed out of anything in the environment.
Uh-huh.
So they can just, just exist out of shit on the ground, I guess, from Rita Repulsa's power.
Here's the thing. As a purist, it's a bit odd. But honestly, if you really stopped and think about it, it's not that big of a stretch because Finster sculpted all of the monsters she made out of clay and ran it through a machine. So I'm like, he can make a monster out of anything. Why can't she?
Yeah, it didn't bother me, but I was curious what you and Phil thought because you guys are diehards.
I'll tell you what Phil thinks.
Does he get pissed off about it?
I haven't talked to him at the new trailer yet. I haven't heard anything back from him. I think it killed him, to be honest.
Oh, he was just like, I'm done.
I don't think he had any hope, but when the toy for Goldar was released, so we actually got to see what he looked like before he was in the trailer, he was not pleased with Goldar just being like a solid gold melted statue instead of a monkey. So, and that's one thing that kind of bothers me. I would have preferred them to just use a random monster, either an original monster or one from the show that did a weird take on, and left Goldar alone because he is in so many episodes. He starts out as like a holy terror, like the bane of the Power Rangers' existence. And by the end of the run with Rita and Zed and all them, the Power Rangers are so much more powerful than him now. He's basically just down to the comic relief.
Yeah.
But he's still one that through most of my run through Power Rangers as a kid, Goldar was in every episode. So for them to mess with Goldar kind of bothers me. Rita's costume design and everything I'm more okay with now after seeing it in action.
It never bothered me because I don't have an attachment to it.
That one was always, well, I know why it didn't bother you, but yeah, after seeing it in action, it's not that bad, and that's one of Phil's theories that I think is actually right on that. But yeah, the dialogue bothers me a little bit. Goldar bothers me. The Putty Patrollers, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just kind of trying to be cautiously optimistic on it because on the one hand, as a Power Rangers fan, I think it's probably going to suck. But as a fan of blowing shit up and like kung fu porn and mechs fighting monsters and stuff, I'm hoping it can deliver on that level.
Okay. My prediction for it, I think it's
as you like to say, I've been playing devil's advocate with you tonight just because this is one of the few chances I get to.
Yeah.
But it's
very rare that we have something where you're super into and I have no attachment to, because most of the things, we're usually both pretty invested in. So, yeah, my prediction for it is I think it's going to do solid. I don't think it's going to make as much money as they want it to.
Oh no.
Because when they start talking like we're going to make 7 sequels or whatever the number they threw out, when I look at this trailer and I just kind of make a guess, what gets you to Dark Knight level money or Avengers level money is rewatches. And I do not think the quality is in here to get fans to go. Because, like, how many times did you watch the Avengers in the theater? Like 3 or 4 times?
At least.
I watched it at least 3 or 4 times. Even diehard fans, at most, diehard fans that like it at most are going to get 2 viewings on this, I think. And I don't think it's going to be the franchise maker they want it to be.
Let me tell you a story, Geoff. My wife and I went to go see Doctor Strange, right? We dropped the kids off at my parents' house, took a break, went and saw Doctor Strange. It was her first time, my second time. And the Power Rangers trailer, the first one, was on Doctor Strange. And the dude sitting next to me leaned over to the person he was with when that trailer was over and said, "It looks awesome, and no matter how awesome it actually is, I'll never see it." That was his exact words I heard him say to the person next to him.
Why, do you think?
I have no idea. Either he's probably a little bit older than me, so there's a chance he probably is attached to the first one. Or it's just the opposite, and because it's Power Rangers and no one gives a shit, like, I don't know.
I don't know how your experience has been. Every time I have been in a theater and the trailer pops up when it finishes, that first one, there are a few people every time that have actually laughed at the trailer.
Oh yeah, no. I've heard people laugh at it. I've seen that trailer a couple times in theaters now, and people laugh like throughout the whole thing. That was the first one though. And I said that first one felt a lot like we got to give them something. We got to get something out there. Because
that is, we have said that from the get-go. It is super disconcerting that we are just now seeing Zords. That is a major red flag. And
oh yeah.
For me personally, if we get into this movie and whenever we watch it, and there are about 5 minutes worth of Zords, like 2014 Godzilla style, like what I went there to see, and there's less than 5 minutes of it, that movie can go fuck itself as far as I'm concerned.
What its worst competition is, I think, is going to be, is even now that it's hokey because we're all grown up, if you go back and watch Power Rangers the movie with Ivan Ooze, that movie not only A, knew exactly what it was and didn't take itself too seriously because it knew what it was, but B, it knew what its audience wanted. There was some extreme sports stuff at the beginning, like Triple X style, but when it came down to it, if you think about it, it didn't take them long to find their new powers. It didn't take them long to get their ass kicked to need the new powers. And once they got their new powers, it was fight. And then we got a Zord battle that resulted in them finally having to do the Megazord. And then they had a battle there. Like, they knew exactly what their audience was there for. So
yeah, I'm just saying, if we get this movie and there's 5 minutes of Zords and there's an hour and 15 of teenage angst, I am going to come on this podcast or vodcast. I'm gonna be pissed. I'm just telling you that right now.
I don't know. I have a sick feeling
that's what happened.
That's what happens. I think we might get some Zords, and then like the Megazord will get like one shot in. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, we've been beating a dead horse, so we got to move on. Final thought: do you think Power Rangers is going to be good? Yes or no? Because I'm going to say no. I just have a bad feeling about it. I've had a bad feeling. Okay, now let me ask you this as a follow-up real quickly. You said you don't think it's going to be good. You said earlier, as a Power Rangers fan, you're probably not going to like it. For a non-Power Ranger fan, average Joe, do you think they'll be able to like it?
I think they're going to be in the middle. I think they're going to be like, it's not the worst movie I've seen, but I've seen far better movies. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the average Joe that sees it in theater, that will be the only time they ever see it.
Yeah. I I just have a bad feeling about it, and I don't think it's going to be nearly as successful as they hope it'll be. Something that is going to be fucking wildly successful is Logan, because good goddamn,
You have no idea, my friend.
I know this. See, this tells you the level to which I care about this movie. When the Power Rangers trailer popped up, I watched it because I don't give a fuck. I'm so invested in this Logan movie that I have been staying as far away from the marketing as possible. So I have not watched it. So Ron, without spoiling anything for me,
So
what do you think?
you mean Logan trailer number 2 that has 917,000 views at this moment, with 31,000 likes and 200 dislikes. That's the trailer you're referring to?
Maybe.
Let me just say, A, balls to the wall.
Yes. Thank you.
B, stabby stab stab.
Yes. Thank you.
C, sprinkles of humor that BVS was sorely lacking. And D, even though there's the sprinkles of humor here and there, it seems very dark. In a good way, like in all the best ways.
I'm like
not exhaustive and you leave the theater dark like BVS.
I'm scratching like a coke addict. I want to watch this so bad, but we are only 5 weeks away. I just have to make it 5 weeks.
You are fine with just the tip, Geoff. Just to the logos.
I won't be able to hold out, dude. I won't. Once it's playing, I'll be like, I'm taking Shaft. It's just gonna happen.
Dude, anyone watching, I still want to say listening, anyone watching that has not seen the trailer yet that's afraid of spoilers, I would recommend waiting like Geoff is. If you don't care about spoilers, I would go ahead and do it. I don't think the spoilers are anything major plot-wise, but they do spoil some pretty amazing action in one scene. And I feel like there's probably not a whole lot of humor, and there was a bit of humor in the trailer. So there's probably a lot of that spoiled, including what I feel like is probably going to be their best joke.
Yeah, we talked about it in a previous episode how I was kind of disappointed at Comic-Con. They played the Wi-Fi joke from Doctor Strange, and I wish they hadn't, because like when that scene came up in the movie, you were able to laugh your ass off, and I was like, oh yeah, I was already in on the joke because I knew what they were about to say. Yeah. And that's kind of a want, you know? You want to be able to enjoy it while you're sitting your ass in the theater.
It is nothing Terminator Genesis level.
Okay, that's good.
From what I can tell, I don't know the movie. From what I can tell,
I have nothing but bad feelings for Power Rangers. I have a good feeling this is going to be one of the top 5 best comic book movies we've seen. Because even for people that have said they've seen just the first 45 minutes, some people have already said like that's not only the best X-Men movie they've seen, but one of the best comic book movies they've seen. And they only watched the first like half of the movie, like third of the movie. I don't know how long it is exactly. But yeah, I think Logan's going to be fucking fantastic. And I'm so happy that Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman get to go on a good note, because I do think Logan's going to kick major ass.
Oh, I can tell you from what I saw, it does.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add about Logan?
No, that's about all I can say without going deeper into it.
Other than March, whatever date it comes out, give it to me now.
I will say this, just like I told you, if you want a taste, but you don't want any spoilers, just watch the trailer to the logos. There's one, it shows a little bit of one scene with the girl to the logos. And then after that, I would stop.
And I've stayed far away. I don't even really know what her character is. I've been staying so far away from it and detached from it that I don't even know. Ironic, I did want to say this, though. Philip just texted me, "You gonna watch the new Logan trailer?" like just now. It's like, good call.
Great timing.
He might be outside my apartment in the bushes, so I need to be wary of that. But yeah.
Hey, he never got back to us about the Power Rangers trailer. You should text him back.
Well, you just got breaking news. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, while we're talking Fox's X-Men stuff, though, let's talk a little bit about Cable in Deadpool 2. First of all, I'm surprised this role hasn't been casted yet, because it feels like we've been talking about it for freaking ever.
Since last February, right? Really?
Yeah. Because it was literally a stinger joke that they were doing this. I don't understand why they still haven't announced it. But let's talk about the news. Ryan Reynolds, it was either on Twitter or Instagram, he sent out a picture of himself, Hugh Jackman, and Pierce Brosnan. So obviously the internet's going apeshit over every little detail they possibly can and speculating that it makes sense to a certain extent that he might be playing Cable. And, this is kind of like their little jokey announcement for it. There's also the theory this is Ryan Reynolds, who in real life is basically Deadpool, and he's just trolling. So let's talk about this first. If he actually is Cable, what are your thoughts?
Not too happy about it, really. I mean, nothing against Pierce.
It's super out of left field.
It's super out of left field, and I don't feel like it's a character that fits him, The guy was a fantastic 007. He's fantastic in every movie he's in, even though he makes a lot of movies I don't give two shits to see. I can tell you he's good in them, and he's just a good actor. But I don't feel like Cable is a fit for him.
It's weird.
That being said, though, he's also the type of actor that doesn't have to be the star when he's in a movie. He may be in the movie, just not Cable.
That's true. Maybe even the villain. Like we really have no idea.
Yeah, we really don't know. Basically, what happened is Ryan Reynolds put out a picture, and the internet lost its mind. That's really
you have
the story.
To think about it. Like when you just think of the way Cable looks, though, like I can kind of see why they would begin. Now, of course, this could end up being total horseshit, and people have been over speculating. But I could kind of get why they're connecting the dots. My opinion on it, I was just taken by absolute shock. It was so out of left field for me, to the point where I don't. There are casting choices that when they happen, you hate it, and it's just an instant gut reaction. My gut reaction was I don't really know what to think because it was just so odd.
What was odd about it to me is that Pierce Brosnan, who doesn't need this movie, is going to be in a possibly going to be in a Fox comic book movie and not a Marvel MCU comic book movie. If he was in there, I'd be like, okay, why not? They brought in the rest of Hollywood.
Yeah, literally, Sly Stallone is going to be in Guardians 2.
And Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
So it's like, for just the idea that he may be in a Fox-made like Deadpool 2 movie, that's a bit odd. Like I said, the guy doesn't need it. So either he's not in it, he's Cable, or he's in it and he's not Cable. I say he's not Cable. I say he may be in it, but he can do bit roles. He's been in movies in bit roles.
I honestly don't know what to think. If he is announced as Cable, I want to see it before I really judge it. Now, you and I are on record. The perfect and only choice is Stephen Lang.
Yes.
To me, it's crazy he hasn't already been casted for this yet. We will also accept Carl Urban just because there will be expletives that he is a fan favorite of ours. But, yeah, I'm really curious. It is getting there, like, 11th hour almost on this casting choice. They need to get this done, and I don't know why. Deadpool was such a success. I don't know how the next week it wasn't announced who was playing Cable.
If you remember, what was it? Like February, Deadpool came out, and then like by March, Stephen Lang had tweeted a picture of himself working out, and he was fucking pumped. And the only text to the picture was "Give me Cable," and that was all it said.
He's literally still doing that now. I just saw him because I follow him on Twitter. He was just tweeting. He like either quoted or retweeted a fan who was talking about him as Cable, and he was basically saying like, "Give it to me again." I don't understand why this isn't a thing. I don't get it, but
we'll have to wait. At all.
We'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping they'll announce it soon because I just want to know. Even if it's Pierce Brosnan, I just want to know.
Another thing that makes Slang perfect for it is he is perfectly okay being in high-budget AAA movies like Avatar did, and he's okay in being in small-budget, virtually no-budget movies like Don't Breathe. Like
or supporting roles in TV shows like Badlands that we're going to talk about later.
He's fine doing any of this as long as he's acting more or less. The guy wants the role.
He looks the role. He's jacked. He's funny when he wants to be, and he's a badass.
His personality's kind of already there too.
Yeah. It is money in the bank that I don't understand how it's not a done deal. But yeah, at what time are we at right now, by the way?
29:40.
Okay, I'm gonna scroll through the rest of these so we can get to our topic so we don't run too long. We talked about Power Rangers for like 25 minutes, I'm pretty sure.
19.
Did you clock it?
I did.
All right, next up, while we're talking Marvel, the animated Spidey movie that has been on the docket for the last year or so, brought to you by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, was just announced this week. It will not be Peter Parker as the titular role. It is actually Miles Morales.
Which makes a lot of sense.
I just want to roll some details before we talked about it. It's written by Lord and executive produced by Lord and Miller. The directors are the director of The Little Prince, which I didn't see, and one of the directors from Rise of the Guardians, or one of the guys who worked on Rise of the Guardians. I don't know exactly what his role in it was. I didn't see that either. So I don't know their background, but Lord and Miller doing Spider-Man period is fantastic.
Yeah.
The thing this made me think of was actually Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Ghost Rider being Robbie Reyes. I think with this, they really do get to have their cake and eat it too, because this is by Sony. Sony is getting to make animated Spidey with Miles Morales and make a fuck ton of money, while Marvel is using Spider-Man as Peter Parker, and they're sitting back counting a fuck ton of money. It's pretty genius.
And it's worth pointing out when it comes to the animated stuff, Marvel is getting their ass kicked by DC for the most part. So for Lord and Miller to be involved, I mean, that to me, that's a sign that this one may actually be good, like the Doctor Strange one was.
Yeah.
What makes a lot of sense to me is in a world where everybody's wanting basically more diverse superheroes now, a lot of people were pulling for Miles Morales to be in the MCU. Personally, I never thought that would happen because, nothing against Miles Morales, and he's a popular character. Peter Parker is the more well-known Spider-Man. So, of course, they went Peter Parker.
And you have to think about it, too. Sony can use whoever they want, and there are no strings attached. Marvel paid God knows how much to be able to use Spider-Man, so you're goddamn right. It's going to be Peter Parker in the role.
Yes. So, this way, you basically get two out there that don't interfere with each other. You're getting Peter Parker in the MCU, and you're getting Miles Morales in what's probably going to be an amazing animated movie.
Can't wait.
And Sony has the rights to both of them.
And they're sitting back,
lighting cigars with $100 bills.
Yeah, they're sitting back watching the Benjamins roll in. And and another quick detail, I wanted to go and look this up because I think it's a real testament to just how fucking good Brian Michael Bendis is, who's the writer and comic creator of Miles Morales. I went back and looked. Miles Morales was created, period, in August of 2011. Little over 5 years, he goes from creation to big screen animated Sony Spider-Man movie as Spider-Man.
Doesn't happen.
That's Batman Beyond level writing.
Yes.
Because when you say someone else is going to be Spider-Man, the whole fan base goes rabid and wants to go and murder you. And he's not only casted as the new Spider-Man, people are like open arms, can't wait. Like, that is a brilliant little bit of writing.
Yeah. Yeah, and not only that, they feel that way when he's half black, half Mexican, and not a little white kid from New York. You know?
This is smart diversity too. This isn't bullshit diversity. This is a great character who happens to be of, different races. Not fucking, well, that's all our podcast that we could do, but it's due open December 21st, 2018, and my ass is going to be in that seat. I can tell you that much. That's all for the movie news. Let's jump to TV. We had a couple things to get through really quickly. First of all, Star Trek Discovery has been delayed for the 5 millionth time. And my interest level has done this.
Yeah.
Done. I don't give a shit anymore.
Well, my interest level was fuck yes until they said CBS no access, and then it was done.
When they first announced it, I was like, cool, I'm ready for another Star Trek show. I love the Abrams and I'm blanking on the name of the new director, but the new batch of Star Trek movies are really good. I'm feeling it. I was super excited for it. They can do a whole lot more with TV special effects that we've seen in like The Flash and stuff like that. It was perfect. It was a perfect timing for it. And then they fucked up by having CBS no access, and that irritated me. It still does, forever will, until they get rid of that bullshit program they have, or actually make programs worth watching, period, for free without paying for them. And Brian Fuller was announced as the showrunner. fucking awesome. Love Brian Fuller. He's done some great TV. Oh, he leaves the project. So they've lost their showrunner. They've been delayed multiple times. They're on a restricted-ass network. Go fuck yourself, CBS. Your show is fucked already.
It kind of falls in line with how cursed the original series was anyway, to be honest.
True that. So
it had everything going against it.
Instead of worrying about this, I'll just go rewatch the new movies.
There you go.
We're happy doing it. So did you have anything else to add to it other than fuck you, CBS?
That's about it.
Last thing, we're going to end on a high note, motherfucker. Into the Badlands Season 2 has the first full trailer, and it is full of fuck yes.
Yes. Into the Badlands gets me, Geoff.
Into the Badlands isn't even geared towards me, and I love it nonetheless.
We were talking about how we just expected kung fu porn, more or less, and
which is a great band name, I think.
I think I saw them at the BOK Center once. It even managed to create a somewhat interesting world. The world itself and the story it's got is a pretty simple one, but I think that's what helps it because
it makes it intriguing.
It makes it intriguing, and they have good characters, and they have a simple plot line. And the simple plot line I'm always a fan of, but especially in this show because I didn't sit down to watch it for the plot. So, I sat down, nothing against it.
I sat down just to watch it as kung fu porn, just like fuck it, I'll spend 45 minutes with some badass kung fu. You know, who doesn't want to do that? Then I started watching it, and it was like, wow, they actually put some effort into world building, which I respected for it. Now we're not talking Game of Thrones here, but compared to what they could have done and gotten away with, it's pretty impressive. And the main thing I like about it too, other than the action, is that they have some great actors. I love the main guy, Daniel Wu is awesome. I'm still praying for my Samurai Jack movie one day with him as the lead, because that would be fucking metal, dude.
Yes. No, they have some smart casting.
Stephen Lang's role, which apparently is going to be bumped up for a bigger role in the second season, because he's in this trailer about as much as he was in all of season 1, period, it seemed like to me. So more of Stephen Lang's a great thing. They've added Nick Frost, which you and I did not know was a thing.
Did not know was a thing.
Dude, Nick Frost whooping ass. I'm like, fuck yes, I'm there. And the widow actress, I love her too. She's awesome in that show.
Oh, dude, there's a moment with her in the trailer that's just like, oh my god.
Metal. What was the launch date for season 2?
March 19th.
Sweet. I cannot wait. Dude, 2017. Fucking love you.
Face, neck, and chest.
Yes. Anything else you want to add with Badlands?
Just give it to me now.
Give it to me now. Fuck yes. All right. With that is a wrap for our news. So we're going to transition over into talking about our topic of the week. Ron and I decided for this week, we are going to be talking, it sounds vague, but we're going to go into a little bit more detail on it. What makes a good villain? Like some of our favorite examples. We're going to go in a little bit more depth as far as how basically we feel your story blows unless you do have a good villain, because they're so important for fiction in general. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about this week. Anything you would like to say to start us off, Ron?
To start with, I would just say that you and I have talked about this before off mic. One of the reasons Batman and Spider-Man are both so beloved as they are is the villains. Like you can have the most amazing hero ever, but no one cares because the villains are what make the hero in most cases. So
you want to know who's feeling the pain of this right now? The Flash, because the Flash has 3 villains and they've pissed poorly used most of them, and they're just fucked.
The Flash.
We need to do a Flash as a topic.
We really do.
We really do.
Write that down.
Write that down. So, here's the first point I wanted to make. I think villains are typically at their best when they don't realize they're the bad guy.
Okay. So they think they're the hero?
When villains don't think they're a bad guy, to me it gives them more depth. And my example for this is Mr. Freeze. In Mr. Freeze's eyes, he has complete and utter justification for every little thing he's doing, and Batman is actually the bad guy.
Yeah.
And when you watch Heart of Ice and you watch that storyline play out,
Oh God, Heart of
when you're the
Ice.
viewer and you can't decide who's right between Batman and the bad guy, that's great writing and that's a great villain. And that storyline, there's a reason you and I can still remember the name of that episode because it's so good.
Oh my God, dude. That was the first time I ever truly, really fell in love with Paul Dini, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
That was
God.
one of the, I think that might have been the second episode to ever air for BTAS. Pretty crazy.
I have two favorite types of villain, and one of them, like you've already pointed out, my example is going to be Mr. Freeze, because I like a villain that I can sympathize with, like you were saying. You know what Mr. Freeze, like why Mr. Freeze is doing what he's doing, and you sit there and think, like, what would I do if I felt like I was in his position where no one is going to fucking help him? So, yeah, it's wrong, but at the same time, his motivations are pure.
What he is doing is wrong for all of the right reasons.
Yes.
And it adds so much more depth to your storyline. If your storyline as a writer, if the bad guy is cut and dry and he has no depth to him, you're spoiling the story, because it is the villain that drives fiction. Because you're, like you were saying earlier, your hero can be, fine and dandy, but if you don't have an intellectually engaging villain, like I love when I'm watching or reading something and I do have that little bit of inner turmoil where I don't know who to root for. It's one of the reasons I like Civil War so much, is you watch all of Civil War and no one's really the bad guy because everyone has justification, and then you're just like watching your siblings fight. You don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. See, my example that I was thinking of that came to mind was the Iron Man movies. So,
okay.
We had Ironmonger first, and he was a cool villain. Jeff Bridges, he was done very well, but the movie never really focuses on him, and his only justification is bigger, badder weapons for more money. And that was pretty much as deep as that character went. And in Iron Man 2, they obviously didn't know.
Iron Man 2 has no villain.
They basically didn't know how to move forward without having another suit of armor fighting the suit of armor. So that one, there wasn't a whole lot of villain there. And then Iron Man 3, like, I didn't really care much about for extremists or anything about it. But I love those movies because of Iron Man and the way that the movies are done. The movies are written very well. Iron Man 1 is a nearly flawless movie. If it weren't for that, I would pretty much just love the character in like Avengers or something like that and not really care about the movies as much as I do. The fact that they're written so well is what helps them, but there's really not a lot of villain there. I'll tell you right now, before Robert Downey Jr. and Favreau, I didn't give two shits about Iron Man.
And as I always say, anyone who says they do is full of shit.
Because if you look at his villains list, I mean, he's a cool concept. He's a cool character, but he's got nothing there. There's no reason for me to watch any of his animated stuff or read any of his comics.
Iron Man has even less villains than the Flash does, which is crazy to say, but it's true.
And what did you and I love about Flash season 1 so much? Yeah, Grant Gustin.
Amazing.
Grant Gustin is fantastic. Yes. But dude, Tom Cavanaugh he just blew it out of the park. Yeah. I never would have known he was in the Yogi Bear movie.
Yeah. That's Earth 55.
Right?
So, we've been talking about character motivations and like I was saying earlier about how, like, your villain drives the plot. And my favorite example of this is, you might surprise you a little bit, but one of my absolute favorite characters, it's like, okay, in X-Men, most people's favorite character is Wolverine. My favorite X-Men character is actually Magneto, because Magneto doesn't think for a second he's wrong.
Right.
And when you think about, like, X-Men, I've said it before, I'm more of a Spidey and a Batman guy. X-Men isn't my favorite, but I think X-Men might have like the strongest foundation as a story, because when you just think about it, first of all, we can have an entire podcast too about how X-Men is an allegory for racism and homophobia and all of that. But
Yes.
when you just break it down at its core concept, which is the ideals behind Magneto and the ideals behind Professor Xavier, it is a genius dichotomy on basically the glass half full, glass half empty type of thing. You have Magneto chooses to see the bad side of people. He's not wrong. People have it just, you can't blanketly criticize people in general for being bad, but Professor X also kind of blank statement thinks everyone's good. That's incorrect too.
Yes.
It's like they're both so headstrong, both of them think they're right, and neither of them are really right. They're both kind of wrong. And I've always loved that dichotomy between those two characters. I think all of those dozens of X-Men comics, all of these movies use that as the foundation. I thought it was just a genius little story idea that.
And I thought the most genius portrayal of that, because it's ironic that you and I we've written down the same goddamn examples, Geoff. In the cartoon and in the comics and stuff, I feel like Magneto is more harsh, but in the X-Men movies, the way that he's portrayed, I think, is the perfect example of someone who truly believes that they are doing not only the right thing, but the only thing that they can do. Because he's not portrayed as this, it's black and white, hard-assed character, but at the same time, he's like, well, this is what we have to do because it's the only way they'll learn. And if they'll learn some other way, it's too slow.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's pretty genius the way they wrote him, because he's more mellow about all the murdering he's doing.
Yeah, he all he cares about is the long game, like what's
Yes.
gonna. I also think too, like a ton of credit and kudos to Bryan Singer and those writers. What's the first thing you see in the first X-Men movie? It's Magneto.
Yes.
You see his backstory and just how important it is. Like the whole foundation of everything is based off of Magneto.
Yeah, in his eyes, that's all happening again, because the first time you see him is at the concentration camp, right?
Yeah.
So in his eyes as a mutant, it's all happening all over again.
Did you said earlier there are two types of villains. What's your second type?
My second type of favorite villain is the type that, no matter how sinister or whatever they are, that they are always pretty much like 10 steps ahead. Like, even when the hero thinks he's won, it turns out he just played into the hands of the villain. And there's some animes and even some movies where like the hero always loses pretty much until the end of the show.
That was one of my notes down too, is I love the villains who are always one step ahead. You want to know my example that I just jotted down?
What's
they
that?
did it a ton. Gus Fring.
Yeah.
Every time Walter White and Jesse thought they had Gus Fring, down, they did not. They didn't have any fucking idea what was actually going on. I always loved that about that show.
I'm not going to say anything else because you haven't seen it yet, but my most recent example that I saw is Ajin on Netflix.
Which I will be starting. We can talk about in the next week or two when I get it started.
That was one of the reasons why I wanted to pick this topic, actually.
I figured you had, because I remember you've been talking to me about it.
Yeah, he's my favorite character in the show. So, but his motivations are going to surprise you, I think. And I can't say more than that, because that's the whole thing for the whole 2 seasons is what the hell is his motivation. So,
yeah.
But yeah, the Joker is usually a great choice for that one also. I was going to say in anime, a great example, but then the more I think about it, not so much. But Naraku and Inuyasha, I would probably actually say the villain of Bleach. I'm not going to say who because you're still not that far yet. But that guy, the villain in Bleach, dude, You love to despise him. And everything he says and does pisses you off, and you love him more for it every time as a viewer.
That's always interesting too, because like that when you talk about that, the person that comes to mind is Tywin from Game of Thrones.
He's very much like Tywin.
He's a complete like I love the villains that are nothing but bastards the whole time, but you love them, and then you almost feel bad about it.
What's funny is the villain in Bleach, like Tywin will like straight out and out like insult you to your face. He's more refined than that, and if he insults a character, that character may not even realize they're being insulted because of the way he said it.
Yeah,
you know, like it's absolute genius the way that they do that villain.
I wanted to quickly talk about the Joker too, is because I kind of broke down villains based off motivation, but in a different way. I think your villain either has to have relatable motivation or no motivation at all.
Yes.
Because that's what makes the Joker so cool. The Joker is the Joker because some men like to watch the world burn. That's as much as they need to say.
Not only that, one thing that's interesting about the Joker is he's more or less a force of nature. There's no explaining him as a character. There's no explaining his motivations. The Joker does what the Joker will do, and no one knows who the fuck he is, what his background is.
And just like
he came out of nowhere.
And just like the comparison between Magneto and Professor X, what's so brilliant about the Joker and Batman is the Batman is the world's greatest detective, whose greatest villain is a guy who he can never come up with the answer for because the answer doesn't exist.
Yep.
And as soon as you start trying to explain it away, you ruin it. Yeah. It's like it's such I think it's becoming a big issue too, because a lot of people, especially in Hollywood, particularly in movies, TV shows are still pretty good about it for the most part, the better ones, but movies, I feel like this is a complaint I hear you say all the time too. They over-explain too much.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Since we're talking about the Joker, the Killing Joke's a good example of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't need to know that the reason a Jedi can use the Force is they have the T-virus. Like, antibiotics is their worst villain. All of a sudden, Jedi's lost all their coolness to me, all their cool points.
Yeah, we could do an entire podcast about everything George Lucas ruined in about 30 minutes worth of screen time in episode 1.
I was really afraid when Luke Cage started trying to explain why Luke Cage was the way he was, and then
at least it seemed like they thought about it and then stopped themselves at one point.
They stopped before they went too far. The Purple Man did it for me. David Tennant.
You think they over-explained them?
I was like, really? It's a virus? He's broadcasting a virus?
If they had gone the Joker route with the Purple Man and you never learned shit about him, and he still has that mysteriousness behind him and that intrigue, because like Purple Man was at his coolest when he was on the trailers, when we didn't know shit. Keyword Jessica Jones, we didn't know anything, and it made him a better character, and they ruined that character a little bit towards the end.
David Tennant salvaged it as much as he could, but yeah, dude, the moment they told me it was a virus, I was like, why? He exists in a world where people just have powers. Why? Yeah,
it's dumb. You want to know the other character I wrote down that falls into the no motivation at all that I love?
Who's that?
The T-1000 in T2 is a great fucking awesome villain who says probably 5 words the whole movie because it don't matter. He's just awesome.
I don't even think he says them with his own voice. I think it's while he's mimicking other people.
He's there with one mission, and Robert Patrick is so fucking good. He does the whole performance off facial expressions.
One thing, which you and I talk all the time about actors who can say everything without saying a word. Like, that's an incredible skill that not a lot of actors can do. This kind of goes back to what I've said on a few episodes of this podcast, and that is one of the great things about Terminator. The overall story can be complex and convoluted, but the basic story of the movies is always very simple.
Yeah.
Extremely simple. That's the genius of that.
Even using time travel, they still manage to keep it simple.
Yeah. because they just use time travel to get to the simple plot. So yeah, it's
While we're talking about a couple minutes ago, we were talking about Jessica Jones and the Purple Man.
yeah.
I actually thought now this falls back in line to the earlier type of villain we were talking about, where like their motivations are relatable and they don't think they're wrong. I love the way Kingpin was readapted for the first season of Daredevil.
Yes.
As Kingpin in that season 2 doesn't think he's a bad guy. He thinks he's legitimately helping.
As I say, he's very much like Magneto in the fact that his goal is to improve New York, a city he loves, by realizing he can't get rid of crime, you can only control it. So that's what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And it's like that makes him the head of the world's largest criminal organization when you control all the crime in a city. But at the same time, he's not necessarily thinking like a criminal. It's pretty genius.
Yeah.
And he is willing to fight tooth and claw for that belief, as we saw. So,
with a fondness
yes.
for car doors.
Oh yes. Oh God. All those visuals.
Your body clenches up when you think about a fucking car door now. Like I walk out of my Corolla, I'm just like,
what is it with the Marvel Netflix stuff and car doors? Luke Cage and Kingpin and
now after we finish this vodcast, I'm going to YouTube and just watching that Luke Cage trailer on a loop for like 12 hours because it's so fucking badass. That was pretty much all I. Real quickly, I will say too. What sparked your interest in doing this was Ajin.
Yes.
What sparked my specific interest in doing this villain topic is because I've been writing my book. And good God, is it so much fun to write a bad guy? Like I'll be writing, dude. I'll get to my chapter where I have to introduce a protagonist, right? I'm just like, how many pages can I get this over with before I get back to the bad guy? Because it is so much fun. Which is what is crazy to me. How does Iron Man exist since the 60s and have no villains? How does that happen?
I don't know.
It is mind-numbing to me.
Yeah, I have no idea. And he was still one of the more well-known, even if no one read the comics or anything.
It's really weird.
It is really weird. I guess it's a testament to that character, but I've never had any interest in any of his plot lines or anything.
Yeah. And then you have Batman. Batman's 15th most interesting villain is 10 times more interesting than any bad guy in the Flash's Rogues Gallery and Iron Man's. Like you can go down a list.
Yeah.
Like Batman has the number 1. Spidey's a decent, fairly close to number 2. No one else gets close to those
Spider-Man's
two.
maybe a little bit more hokey, but
they fit the character.
And the attributes to each of the villains that make Batman's villains so great are still present in Spider-Man's villains.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, his are a little bit more hokey, and there's a guy in a giant rhino costume, but like you said, it fits the character.
Yeah, totally.
So,
did you have anything else you wanted to add? I pretty much hit all my topics that I wanted to talk about.
Just to give them some free advertising, dude, you need to watch Ajin. It's not going to be what you think it is, number 1. Number 2, I don't think there's technically a hero in it. Like everyone is pretty much a villain in some way.
You keep trying to sell me. I've told you, like, I'm going to watch it. Just give me time.
No. I haven't sold you enough because you're still not watching.
Okay, fair enough. You watch House of Cards because we can have the same discussion. House of Cards has no protagonists. They're all assholes and they're all awesome. And I love every one of them.
That's exactly the way it is in Ajin. And I have a feeling my favorite character maybe end up being your favorite character.
Probably.
For reasons.
Yeah. And then Game of Thrones is the same way. Like there are some good characters in Game of Thrones, but everyone has their own agenda. No one thinks they're wrong.
Yeah. Everyone is gray in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, we could do an entire fucking podcast just on character development in Game of Thrones.
I was gonna say we already do a whole podcast on Game of Thrones.
We're gonna do so tonight's watch is a spinoff of this, and then we're gonna do can we have Chris Hardwick do like the after show of tonight's watch where we talk about it some more?
We just go sit down on a couch with him and talk about it some more.
Yeah, we'll have like tonight's watch and then midnight's watch brought to you by Chris Hardwick. Can we do that? Oh wait, he's too busy with his game show. Have you seen that shit? He's doing the ball game show or whatever.
Yeah. Oh wait.
Yeah.
What?
Chris Hardwick is the main host of a game show now. It's called like The Wall. I'm like, Chris Hardwick, you do an after show to everything. How did you find time to do a game show?
Is he still doing At Midnight?
I think he's still doing everything. I'm pretty sure Chris Hardwick is a Terminator, and there's a whole assembly line of Chris Hardwick. So
I was gonna say, dude, I have no idea when that guy sleeps, when he eats. I don't even know how he finds time to travel between all these gigs he's got.
Yeah,
especially during Comic-Con, dude.
Yeah, he's a Terminator. We heard it here now. I'm just saying. But yeah, if you would like to check us out more, please like and subscribe. That gets you all of our content. We're hoping to get back to new Let's Plays as soon as we can. Be on the lookout for Ron's Part 2 highlight show. And if you haven't still watched Part 1, go back and watch that because it was fantastically done. Good work, sir.
Thank you.
We have social media links in the description below for our Facebook and Twitter. I promise we won't spam you. It's just, random news. Mostly when Ron and I are bored at work. That's when you can expect news. And most importantly, if you know anyone else that is crazy enough, crazy like a fox, like you are, viewer, to actually like our content, we would greatly appreciate it.
Viewer is the most accurate thing we've said all night.
Philip, I love you. Don't ever forget it. But yeah, I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
See you guys next time.